Hey everyone, welcome to the project lecture. The goal of this lecture is to help you guys get started on thinking of some project ideas and as well as just help you guys go through the project homework.
So to start, just a few quick announcements. First and foremost, we have our course-wide project kickoff in person on Monday, September 11th at 6 p.m. in the Big SIF Auditorium 0027-1025. We do have an online option over Discord and Zoom made available only by request, but please plan to attend this in person. This is an event where you'll get to meet your team members for the rest of the semester along with your project managers. So it's really important. Pizza will be provided, and we hope you guys will have a great time. We also have our enrollment confirmation form. If you still haven't filled this out, please do so by September 8th to be put into groups. If you miss this form and you're not placed into a group, you do run the risk of getting an unsatisfactory in the course, so please make sure you fill this out as soon as possible. Also, in terms of our Discord, please rename yourself to your preferred name followed by your net ID in parentheses by September 8th as well. Once Rachel and I make the project groups, we're going to be assigning people roles on Discord, and all accounts without this naming convention will be removed from the server. So if that happens to be you and you're removed from the server and not placed into a group, you do run the risk of getting an unsatisfactory, which nobody wants. Then we also have our office hours. Please check out our schedule to see when PMs are staffing office hours. Swing by to ask questions about homework, projects, or just to talk about anything. On the office hour schedules, we do have each project manager's technical areas of expertise listed. So if you're thinking about starting some project ideas or just want to get a better idea of how certain things work in different interest pods, please check out that schedule, find a time when a PM who shares the same interests as you is staffing, and feel free to hop onto the Discord channel and just chat with them about any and everything. We also have our project idea homework, which is due September 10th. This is the day before project kickoff, so we hope you guys will use it to come up with some good ideas that you guys can talk about at project kickoff itself. Please keep in mind that while this homework is a Google form, we ask that you access it through PrairieLearn because we do have a PrairieLearn assignment. It's a very simple, yes, I submitted the Google form, make sure you get 100%, but please make sure you finish this by September 10th. And last but not least, we do have our CS 124 Honors Google Calendar that you can use to stay updated. Rachel and I will be keeping you guys all up to date in terms of Discord announcements in the server, but in case you like Google Calendars, this is definitely there as an option for you.
Okay, so here are our goals for today. We'll first be going over some popular project categories, and then we'll go over some project inspiration and take a look at some past projects, as well as some questions you can ask yourself to get from other sources of inspiration. And then we'll go over how to come up with a project idea that will include your project homework, and then the project weekly workflow.
So some project categories. First, we have website development. This, as the name suggests, pretty much is based around building, creating, and maintaining websites. This is usually split into front-end and back-end development. The front end is the client side, which is what's seen by the user and what they interact with, where the back-end development is all the server side, which isn't seen by the user and it stores and arranges data. Oftentimes, we see database management is also thrown into the back-end development just to store that information.
There's also mobile development. So this is focusing specifically on non-web mobile applications. And so we kind of have two main categories for this. The first one is native applications. So native applications are written in the programming language and frameworks provided by the specific platform owner, and they run directly on the operating system of the device. So some examples of this is iOS and Android. And then there's also cross-platform apps, which are native mobile applications that can be written in a variety of different programming languages and frameworks, but they are compiled into a native application that runs directly on the operating system of the device. And so, for example, you can create a cross-platform application that can run on both iOS and Android.
Game development. So this is based around creating games, right? Their design, development, and release. More often than not, when we see students working in game development, it's based around game engines like Unreal and Unity. This makes the process easier, it allows you to reuse functionality, and the game engines already have rendering for 2D and 3D graphics, physics and collision detection, sound scripting, and a lot more.
Have data science. And so basically what data science is extracting value and meaning from data. And so there are two main categories for this. There is machine learning / deep learning. And machine learning is basically the practice of applying algorithms to data in order to kind of learn and infer or just understand the data. And then deep learning is using a specific subset of algorithms that work really well on complex problems with lots and lots of data. And data analytics is just summarizing the data into a meaningful and descriptive way.
In terms of the tech stack, essentially what a tech stack is a combination of tools, applications, and services that you use to build your project. We have a really helpful document which outlines common tools used in this course. Keep in mind this is a starting point, and we do encourage you to do additional research on your own. The document breaks down for every single interest pod in the course some common tech stacks that are used. So as I previously mentioned, for game dev, for example, Unity, Unreal; for mobile development, Flutter, React, Native, and things like that. But we do like to remind you that you are not constrained by what we have listed here. We encourage you to find what you're comfortable with, try and learn new things, and figure out with your project manager and your group mates what tech stack you guys think works best for your project.
Okay, now going into some project inspiration. So here's some past projects that were created by students just like you who took 124 honors in the past. And so for the web apps category, we had students who created a health tracking app, as well as a food social media.
In terms of mobile apps, we had students who created a recycling app and a borrowing and lending application.
And for game development, we've had students who created a 2D level-based game, as well as a coin collector game.
And in the realm of data science, we had applications such as movie recommendation engines based on emotions in sound recordings, and also climate change data visualizers.
And you also don't need to follow specifically one of these categories. You can also create a project that kind of blends two different categories. So an example of some projects that fall under this combination category is a music app for senior citizens who are suffering from dementia, and an ASL learning game.
So you might be asking yourself where you can get some other sources of inspiration. And we like to pose these questions to get you thinking about project ideas that you could be really passionate about. So first and foremost, think about your hobbies and your interests. Do any of those spark ideas for projects that you could work on, or things that computer science can be used to solve? You should also ask yourself about problems that you encounter in your daily life, or problems that exist within a community that you're part of. And lastly, you can also think about things that already exist but can be improved upon. No application or device is perfect, so if there's something that you use but you think you can come up with improvements for, that can be the great foundation for a really solid project.
Okay, now we'll be going over the project idea form, which is also part of the project idea homework on Frail. And so when you're coming up with your project idea, we have a few questions that we want to ask you. So the first one asks for your project summary. Just give a really brief summary about what your project does and what the goals of it are. And then the next question is, what problem would this project solve? So one of the questions I just mentioned earlier, we asked you to think about some problems that exist. And so what problem is your project trying to solve?
Then we also ask you to list the features that would make up your product, essentially letting us know, and of course this isn't anything final, but what makes your product a product, what makes it unique. And lastly, this is completely optional, but we also ask you what the tech stack might look like. If you are unfamiliar with tech stacks and you want some more time to research, that's completely okay. Your project managers are there to guide you through this process. But if you have a great project idea and you're already a bit familiar with it, feel free to list some of the applications or libraries that you'll be using to complete it.
Okay, project workflow. So we follow something called an agile framework. And under this agile umbrella, we have two methodologies called Scrum and Kanban.
You can think of Scrum as essentially a sprint-based structure. In this course, we have 1 week sprints that occur every single week, and we have 11 total sprint 0 to sprint 10. Sprint 0 is what you'll be entering right after project kickoff. After sprint 4, we have midterm presentations. And then at the end of sprint 10, we have our final presentations. Each sprint is essentially centered around you meeting with your project manager and your teammates and planning what you're going to be doing for the upcoming sprint. You reflect on what went well and what didn't go so well in the previous sprint. You split up tasks for the upcoming sprint. You assign who does what. And then, of course, you work on those tasks iteratively until you reach the end of the semester and the project is complete.
And so you might have noticed on the Discord server that we have a channel called Sprint Announcements. This is where we will be announcing all of the very general goals that you should be meeting every sprint. So for example, we have a message here that says that welcomes you to Sprint 0, and we have the goal. So for Sprint 0, you want to figure out your meeting time, come up with a project idea, all of those. And then you will also be voting on the name for the next sprint. So each week we'll have a new theme for you guys and a few names that you can choose. So for example, this theme is Baked Goods, and then you would be choosing among those name options. And then the next sprint, Sprint 1, would be named whichever gets the most votes.
In terms of the Kanban board, this is a very powerful tool that you can use to track the progress of different tasks as they complete. So essentially, the way this works is every time you meet with your project manager and your group, you create the assignments that are going to be tackled for the upcoming week or sprint. These are then assigned to individuals and placed in the to-do column. As you begin working on them, you drag the item into the in progress column, and then once they're ready to review, you put them in the pending review. Once your PM has time and decides to look over them, they would move that into the review in progress. And lastly, once everything is ready to go and merged into your main branch, they would be placed into a done column. This is a really helpful way for you guys to track exactly what's happening as it happens, to keep track of tasks that are maybe on the backlog that are a little bit on behind on, so you can make sure that you progress those at a good rate.
Okay, next up, we'll be looking at the structure of your GitHub repository. So we have a few folders here. We have the docs folder, which inside of this, you can find all the documents that you are using, as well as your meeting notes. The next folder is the project folder. This is where you can find all of your project code. And lastly, we have the research folder, which is just where you'll be putting in all of your research. We also have a README file, and your PM will go over in detail what all of these mean and what everything is for, so you don't have to worry about that too much right now.
All right, and that brings us to the end of our project lecture. We know we threw a lot of information at you, so just to recap, we first went over some popular project categories such as web dev, mobile dev, game dev, and data science. We also talked about project inspiration, going over some past projects and questions you can ask yourself to come up with ideas. And then, of course, our project weekly workflow. Thank you guys so much for your time. And if you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us over Discord or email.